All right, so our next topic is Mr. Friedrich Nietzsche, um, 18th, 1800s. Nietzsche's primarily known, the most famous thing Nietzsche's known for is his idea that God is dead, which is, these are my lecture notes, so sorry. Just bear with me on that a little bit. Where has God gone? We have killed him. God is dead. God is dead is kind of Nietzsche's slogan a little bit. By the way, he doesn't mean God lived and then he died. He means religion is dead, and organized religion is dead. In particular, Christianity is dead. That's Nietzsche rails against Christianity. He's not a fan at all of Christianity. Which, you know, probably made him very popular at this time. I'm being sarcastic, of course not. He was a bit of a pariah for that reason and others, which I don't need to get into. But there was, you know, we had public arguments with other people and, you know, things like this. A key concept in Nietzsche is the herd instinct. So just note that the valuation and orders of rank express the needs and advantages of the community and dictates the worth of the individual. That is, the individual is valued only in relation to the herd. When he says morality, when he says morality is the herd instinct, in the next sentence, he's talking about Christian morality. So Nietzsche's not very fond of this idea that your value is dictated by what you do for the community, for the society, for, you know, for others. He calls it the herd instinct. Do you want to be part of the herd or do you want to be an individual? You can tell where he stands just by the labels he gives this. Okay, so he's very much opposed to this notion of being valued in relation to what you do for society. I'll skip the personal confessions thing. The center of Nietzsche's philosophy, he's a lot to say about a lot of things, okay? And that is true. So this is not the only thing Nietzsche talks about, but it is central to his whole philosophy, his whole vision. And that is that there are two types of morality. I believe the guy that the other video that I have supplementing this one, that guy makes this point as well. He's right. This is central to Nietzsche's whole view of the world and everything. Okay, so there's two types of morality. There's master morality and there's slave morality. He notes that these two types of morality exist side by side within every culture and even within individual people. That is to say, people are of two, even an individual person might be of two minds about this and think in one, in terms of one morality at one point and a different morality at a different point. All right, and I'm just, my notes follow the reading, so I would probably present this a little more clearly if I wasn't doing this, but through the notes, but it is following the reading, so hey, there's a benefit in that. All right, so Nietzsche says good and bad for masters equal noble and contemptible. Later on, he says that good and bad for slaves equals good and evil. Notice the text this comes from is called Beyond Good and Evil, so he's trying to move beyond the concepts of good and evil. And again, you can tell which side he takes here. Of course, you want to be a master, you don't want to be a slave, so he's favoring the master morality. That's kind of an understatement, you know. he's championing master morality. And masters don't think in terms of good and evil, they think in terms of noble versus contemptible. What is contemptible? That is what's bad. This is equivalent to evil for masters. Well, flatterers, they hate them. Beggars, humble people, subservient people, most of all, he says, liars. These are the things that masters hate. All right, moving on to the next. Judgments belong to people, not actions. This is an important point to make here. Nietzsche is a classics guy, and that has to do with the fact that his specialty is ancient philosophy. People like Plato and Aristotle, even though he doesn't like those guys. But, back then, like back in Greek and Roman times. And in classic ancient philosophy, ethics was done a different way. It doesn't talk about actions. Plato doesn't talk about actions. Aristotle doesn't talk about actions. They talk about virtues, remember? Virtues and character. It's basically character types, right? The kind of person you are. The kind of person you are. It's a characteristic assessment. And this is the way Nietzsche thinks as well. So masters and slaves, they're not literally masters and slaves, okay? No, we don't have masters and slaves. Well, I guess there's some places in the world, but we don't literally have masters and slaves here in advanced societies, but we have the character types, okay? Are you the kind of character that represents the master, or are you the kind of character that represents the slave? This has to do with your character. Not your wealth, not your upbringing, not anything else. It's how you view the world. Are you a master type person, or are you a slave type person? This is what he's getting at here. All right, so let's review some of the characteristics of the noble, which is the master. Okay, noble, master, same thing. The master is value creating. That is, masters decide for themselves what's right and wrong. They don't let that be dictated to them. They make the choice themselves. Masters are about self-glorification. They glorify themselves. They promote themselves. It's about power and wealth. That's, trying to achieve that, obviously. Talk about masters, that seems pretty obvious. The master is only generous for power's sake. All right, so masters will be generous, but only if they get something out of it. Okay. The master has power over himself as well as others. All right, here's something that I want to point out. We've met somebody kind of like Nietzsche already, and that was Callicles in the Gorgias. Remember him? The strong should rule. This is similar, okay? This is one departure from Callicles, because Callicles said, I shouldn't have to rule myself. Nietzsche disagrees with that. He thinks the master should be in control of himself. So the master has to be harsh with himself and rule himself. The master is proud of not feeling pity. He hates selflessness, not selfishness, selflessness. The master or the noble honors the past and has disdain for progress. That one's a little strange to me, as you'll see maybe as we discuss this. Okay, then we turn to the slaves. And he says the lower people, the slaves, find acting beyond good and evil alien. They don't understand it. They believe in pity and duty to others. Crazy, crazy slaves. Pity and duty to others. They don't understand a sophisticated friendship and the need for enemies, because those are master, noble things. Okay? And he says, suppose the oppressed, the suffering, the violated, and the unfree were to moralize, a condemnation of man and his condition would be expressed. The noble's happiness and honor is not genuine. Yeah, that guy's rich and has 15 cars and a mansion and everything, but yeah, he's probably not really happy. That kind of thing. That's slave morality is the morality of utility. Utility means like being useful. This totally connects up with the herd mentality thing, right? So you're useful to the community. So very much connected to the herd instinct idea. So how are you a useful person to the community, the society. You're patient. You're industrious. That is, you work. That just means you work hard. You have humility. You have compassion, and you're friendly. Those who inspire fear are evil. Masters regard those people that inspire fear as good. Slave morality brings good and stupid closer together. All right. You can tell, again, he's not very much in favor of slave morality, just in case you were wondering before. Slaves, most of all, long for freedom. All right, we'll move on a little bit further here, and I'll try to discuss this more thoroughly. So master morality, he thinks, is characterized by yes. In other words, masters are, yes, I can do it. Yes, I can do it. You know, they have a yes mentality, whereas slave morality is more about, no, I can't, you know, no, or no, don't do that. Masters have to do with action. They're action oriented, whereas slaves are reactive. They're reacting to the masters. The masters are telling them what to do, and they're reacting to that. He says master morality hates the commoner far more than the commoner hates the master. Okay, so look, masters don't hate the slaves. They don't care about the slaves. Okay. And you may have heard this said before, that the opposite of love is not hate, it is indifference. And that's kind of, in a way, that's what Nietzsche's kind of say. Master doesn't care about the slaves. The slaves don't like the masters because they're lording over them, and, you know, they're the masters, but the masters don't really even give a crap. They don't, why bother hating? They just don't even care. All right. Master and slave morality is supposed to exist in every society. That would mean ours. Normally, I try to go into a lot of examples about this, but let me just try to throw out a couple, okay? First of all, slave morality. That's the easy one, because slave morality, I don't know about you, that's morality. I mean, that's what I was taught to be moral. You're compassionate, you're patient, you're humble, you're friendly. This to me is what I was taught is moral. It does coincide with Christian morality. And like I said, Nietzsche's not a big fan of Christianity. And that explains some of the things he says about this. A condemnation of man and his condition. What is that supposed to mean? Well, it kind of means, for the Christian, this life sucks, but you get through it and you be a good person, then you go to heaven later. Nietzsche doesn't believe in heaven. So he's like, Christians discount the life you're living now and think of it as terrible, and then you go to heaven later. By the way, the whole no thing is an interesting observation in this regard when he says it's characterized by no. Think about the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do. It's all about what you should not do. Don't do this. It's all no, no, no. Okay. You can see that this is, his ideas are informed by Christian morality, okay? But, you know, like I said before, slave morality to me is morality. I mean, that's what I have always been taught, to be a moral person in that regard. Now, does the master morality exist? All right, I'm going to let you think about this yourself, but let me throw out a couple of suggestions here. The one most obvious one, which it's just begging to be said, I'm sorry, I hope I don't offend anybody, but it's just obviously true. Donald Trump! Look at this dude! Donald Trump! Does he think he can make up his own rules? Value creating? Yes, he does. Is he about self-glorification? The man puts his name on everything, right? Come on. Is he obsessed with power and wealth? I think so. Is he only generous for power's sake? That would mean that Does the guy give anything away to others without taking credit? Like, anonymous donation? No, he doesn't do that. I don't think so. I doubt it. When you give something away, you want to get the credit for giving it away. That's what that means. And it's kind of self-glorification too. You're promoting yourself by doing generous things. I could go on, but I'm not. I'm going to stop. Is he harsh with himself? Kind of. So anyway, this seems like a pretty good example of master morality and how it exists and is respected. He's the president. You can also think about capitalists and people that do well in business. Zuckerberg, or people in the Bay Area who that are the executives of Facebook and Google, and because when you look at how corporations operate, and they operate, people run corporations. Okay, a corporation is not, contrary to what the Supreme Court says, a corporation is not a person. Corporations are run by people. How do they run corporations? It's sort of the same way, okay? Corporations, they want to make up their own rules. They put a whole bunch of money into trying to make up their own rules. That's what all the lobbying and everything is, even in other places, bribes, or maybe even here. Are they about self-glorification? Yeah, Levi's Stadium. Hey, they want their name on the freaking thing. They don't just pay for a stadium. They want to glorify, promote themselves. Are they about power and wealth? Obviously. Are they proud of not feeling pity? Corporations, if they have to lay off people to raise the profit margin, hey, tough shit. They just do it, right? They just do it. There's no pity. That's just the market. That's just the way it goes, right? So clearly that lines up here. This is where I honor in the past, and having disdain for progress is a little weird, especially in Silicon Valley where we live, because it seems like progress and in being inventive is how you get ahead. I'm not entirely sure why Nietzsche puts this in here. Maybe just because if you're a noble already, you don't want things to change. I don't think that's actually a really good explanation for it, but it does. I find that problematic, and I don't know how to reconcile that with a lot of the other things he says. Anyway, think about it. You can also look. I had a professor that was a Nietzsche scholar, and his name was Dick Schacht. Yeah, that was his name. He's a well-known Nietzsche scholar. And his message about what he thought Nietzsche was great, because Nietzsche's message is be the best you can be. Try to be a master. Rise above the crowd. Be the best. And that is true. I mean, when you read Nietzsche, you get sucked into that. You're like, yeah, I want to be a master. Which, by the way, completely ignores the fact that by definition, almost everybody's going to be a slave. Masters you can't be a master if there's not a ton of slaves. So, I mean, it's the best of the best, but you're trying to be the best of the best. And so this could also relate to, I don't know, other things where people are the great scholars, the best scholars. Is Einstein a master? Nietzsche probably would say yes, because it's the best of the best. Star athletes, movie stars, all of these things are moving in that direction of master morality. Remember, he said that both of these things can operate in the same society, and they can even operate within, they can even be in the same individual. So if people think master morality on Monday when they go to work, but on Sunday when they're at church, they're all slave morality, right? Yeah, that's right. And so they're not even consistent in themselves. Which, by the way, notice it's hard to say that you can just do both when they have very, very, very differing. I mean, they're in complete conflict, contradiction. From you hate selflessness or you are selfless. You hate humility or you are humble, right? You can't just, they're very incompatible, right? So many times when people answer this essay question on Nietzsche, they're like, I'm both and it's okay. Really? Because they're really inconsistent. And you have to give Nietzsche credit, at least he takes a side. I mean, he's master morality is the way to go. Slaves need to just suck it up and be slaves and just let the masters run the world. The strong should rule. Okay, one other thing I might note here is about the notion of equality, which is a big idea in ethics. And Nietzsche, it comes up, but it's hard to catch because it doesn't talk very much about it. But first of all, if you believe in master morality, you don't believe in equality. How could you believe in equality if there's masters and slaves? No way, right? So people are not equal. If you believe in slave morality, then you believe in equality among people. And so Nietzsche does mention this, like some places, like he says, this is a great quote, by the way, just to see how persuasive and kind of sly Nietzsche is. He says, the moralist wants to remake all humans in his own image. And by doing so, he negates the world of human diversity. It's no small madness. That's a very provocative claim, and it sounds great. But what he's saying is the moralists, and he means the slave morality people, they want to say everybody's equal. But this negates the world of human diversity because people aren't equal. It's crazy. All right. Nietzsche on truth is interesting. I'm not going to talk about that now, but maybe not at all. The key thing in Nietzsche is this master and slave morality, even though his ideas on truth are pretty interesting. It's worth reading and noting. And will to power, which is another catchphrase of his. All right. I think that's enough. Hopefully you catch between this and the other video, you get the gist of Mr. Nietzsche.